Hello everyone and welcome to Flash Forward, the show where I talk about every single issue of The Flash. This week we are building up to Flash Rebirth and the return of Barry Allen. We're closing in on Final Crisis and Wally West's final days as the main Flash. We are going to be talking about issues 237 to 246, starting with a story written by Keith Champagne with art by Coy Turnbull and Art Thibault. Now, this is a Flash issue, but I would classify it as more of a Superman issue starring the Flash, because the entire story takes place in Metropolis. Superman plays a big role in this book, and so does Lois Lane. And the story also features a Superman villain. So let's just get straight into it, shall we? The Wests are having breakfast together. Wally West has just dealt with a villain called the General alongside the Justice League, so now he's enjoying breakfast with his family. The art I'm kind of mixed on. It really depends on what panel you're looking at as to whether or not it looks good, but I'd say I don't like it most of the time. It looks a little bit too Uncanny Valley for my taste. They do a little bit of family ribbing where Wally says that his memory is getting worse ever since he's had kids, kind of playing that I'm getting old as a dad kind of card. Wally's got a job interview. He's got 2 job interviews to go to today. He needs to get a job so that he can provide for his family, and Jai suggests that he just go and rob a bank because he's the Flash, and that'll be a quick way to make money. And Wally's just like, one more time, Jai? Wait, what? I was only kidding. So Keith kind of goes for this angle that Jai is a little bit rebellious, and that maybe he's thought about using his powers for the wrong reasons before. While Wally's out doing his job interview, Linda is going to take the kids to Metropolis so that they can take part in a scavenger hunt that Wally and Linda have set up for them. While he's out doing his job interviews, Wally also plans on checking in on Superman, because apparently Superman is dealing with some kind of abominable snowman. So he's gonna go help Superman because he's the fastest man alive. He's like, I can do that and then still have time to go to my job interviews. I'm not gonna forget. Linda does a little bit of power regulating for the kids before they head off to Metropolis. And when they get there, people of Metropolis are so focused on what they're doing that some guy just walks straight into Iray and she phases through him with her powers, and he doesn't even notice. He just complains that this kid is getting in his way. This is where Linda gives Iray and Jai their first scavenger item, which is Superman's cape. And they're like to Linda, is the cape on Superman, or is it away from him? I guess Wally's job was to go find Superman and take his cape from him for the scavenger hunt, but he forgets to do that. Instead, he spends his time fighting the abominable snowman with Superman to save these Inuit people. Wally throws a bunch of snowballs at the abominable snowman and then runs around him in circles, cracking all the ice around the snowman and creating a little island for him. And then Superman smashes through the abominable's head, cutting it off, as it's revealed that this abominable snowman isn't actually real and it's a robot. And Superman was able to sense that because he used his X-ray vision. Superman tells Wally to get to work and investigate who created this abominable snowman, and the word work makes Wally realize that he's missed one of his job interviews and that he has to get to his other one. And Superman says that he can handle this on his own and that Wally can go off to his second job interview. And Wally's like, nah, I got a couple of minutes spare, I'm fine. And it's like, bro, you were literally just complaining about the fact that you missed your first interview and that Linda will be really mad at you if you missed the second one. And then immediately after that, you're like, nah, I got a couple of minutes to spare. I'm not going to be late for my second interview. Like, you've already proven that you can't manage your time well enough. Superman insists, and Wally leaves to head to his job interview. And at the same time, he feels like he's forgetting something, which I think is he's forgetting Superman's cape for the scavenger hunt. They never clearly say that, but I think that's what Wally has forgotten. Jai and Iray look around Metropolis for Superman's cape. They end up at a power station where they come face to face with Livewire, who just happens to be there. I don't know if Linda knew she was gonna be there or not, but they have to fight Livewire. And while they're fighting Livewire, Wally goes to his job interview, which is to be a bodyguard, security guard, and the guy that's interviewing him is Lex Luthor on steroids. It's not actually Lex Luthor, but it looks like Bane when he's not wearing his costume. Which would be pretty funny if, in his own time, when he's not being a criminal, Bane hires people to be security guards. He realizes that he's not fit to be a security guard, apologizes to the guy, and leaves. Linda loses communication with Iray and Jai after Livewire hits them with an electric shock, which shocks her earpiece that she's wearing to communicate with them. And Lois tells her not to worry, and she communicates to Superman, because I guess she's got some kind of earpiece or something that she can talk to him with. She tells Superman to come and help Jai and Iray. He's like, yeah, I'm just dealing with this thing right now, I'll be there in a second. Jai and Iray run away from Livewire, but she catches up with them, begins attacking them again with lightning, using her lightning to pull the pathway out of the ground and throw rocks at them. And as she goes to attack them again, Superman swoops in and grabs her hand. He's like, loud and clear, what were you thinking, Leslie? Gosh, Superman, you're right, I don't know what I was thinking. Sucker! And she shocks him in the chest, sending Superman flying, and Superman is out of commission. He smashes straight into a car and it knocks him out. Jai sees his cape and considers taking it for the scavenger hunt, but he's like, nah, stealing's wrong. And that's when Wally rushes in and grabs him and he's like, good boy, grab that bumper. Let's show this lady what happens when people mess with the Wests. Iray faces off against Livewire. Livewire's powers can't do anything to her because they're phasing straight through her. So Jai is able to run up behind Iray and punch through her in order to hit Livewire. And that sends Livewire flying straight into their dad. And Wally punches her in the face and then grabs her by the neck and throws her onto the ground, knocking her out. And so we get to see Wally beat Livewire and not Superman, which I was really happy to see. When I saw that Superman was in this book, and I saw that the book took place in Metropolis, I was really afraid that it was going to end with Superman getting the win, and I'm so glad that he got knocked out and Wally was able to beat Livewire, because this is the Flash, this isn't Superman. If anybody deserves to get the win against the villain, it should be the lead character in the book. The Wests head home to watch a movie together, which is a callback to a conversation that Jai and Iray have with Linda earlier in the book, where they're complaining about how they don't get to watch TV while their powers are being regulated, but they do get to have movie night, so we get to see them having a movie night with their parents, which is just a lovely little moment. And Wally mentions that Superman took Livewire off to prison and helped deal with the city and fixing everything that Livewire had broken. Wally tells them that he failed at his interview, but he's looking forward to going to more job interviews because there has to be a job out there for him somewhere, and I'm interested to see what that job is going to be if he ends up getting one. Wally hasn't really had any interesting jobs. There was a period of time where he had a lot of money and he didn't need a job, and then he lost all that money. After that, he was working with the Justice League, and I think that's how he was earning money. And then he became a engineer for the police. I don't know what job I think would fit Wally the most. His personal interests have never been made clear enough where you could figure out exactly what kind of career would work best for him. Tom Payer takes over as the main writer of The Flash going forward, with Freddie E. Williams II returning as the main artist. Wally West heads to Hub City to save people from an earthquake that has hit the city, and Jai is worried that an earthquake is going to hit Keystone, so Wally has to tell him that that's never going to happen. He also starts to complain about the news, saying that they hammer these kind of stories continuously, and Linda tells him to stop complaining because she doesn't want their kids to just grow up to be people that complain all the time. That's when the signal goes out on their TV because they haven't paid their bills in a while because they're not making any money and Wally needs a job. Meanwhile, at a hotel, a bunch of people have come together to have a relief auction for the invasion that had happened recently. Or they're all worried about an earthquake hitting the hotel and the city because their city structures are quite weak after the creatures had dehydrated a whole bunch of the city. So if they were to get hit by an earthquake, it would be devastating. One guy in particular, named Mr. Orbach, is there, and he tells everybody that we should worry because earthquakes are scary business. He hides behind a nearby pillar and says, "Load theme," and then transforms into a villain who calls himself Spin. Seems to have a TV screen as his mask. And he walks over to a guy, and he says, "My name's Spin. As in spinning the news to serve my interests. What has you worried these days? War? The economy? Wait, don't tell me. Earthquakes." And suddenly an earthquake appears in the hotel, and people start falling into the crevice, and it's pretty awful. And while this is happening, Spin grabs a Fabergé egg, because that's what he came there for, to steal that, to sell it for heaps of money. Which makes you wonder, how was Spin able to either predict or create this earthquake? Jay Garrick contacts Wally West and tells him to head over to the hotel because people are in danger and they need to help them. And Wally's like, "Alright Jay, I'll go get the kids." And he goes into Jai and Iray's room to tell them what's going on. But then he realizes that it was an earthquake, and he told Jai recently that no earthquakes are going to happen. So instead, he tells Jai that there's nothing wrong, and that he's going to go and deal with this himself, because he doesn't want to scare Jai. It's a little disappointing that at the end of the Wild Wests, Wally learnt to allow his kids to be superheroes and to join him out on the field, and now it's being established that Wally is doing what he can to stop them from being heroes because he doesn't have any money, and also because he's already lied to them about situations that are going on. I thought we were going to be getting stories of them being a superhero family, but already that's not happening. I hope it doesn't last very long. Wally tells Linda to keep the kids busy, and he heads off to the hotel and helps Jay moving debris and all sorts of stuff. He's really tense and worried about money, and that's when one of the reporters comes up to him, Julie Greer, and asks him why he looks so tense. And Wally's like, "The reason I'm tense is because of money. This job doesn't pay a thing. That's why I'm tense." And Julie Greer's like, "You heard it here live. The Flash expressing concern about money. I have to say, this is quite a first." And he's like, "No, wait. I was kidding. I was..." And because of that blurting of a line, things soon turn on Wally. Jay tells him that he shouldn't have said that he shouldn't be thinking about money. It's the criminal's job to think about money. Wally's like, "I can't believe, not only are you telling me how a Flash should operate, but also that I'm acting like a criminal? Come on, Jay, I'm struggling, I need to get a job." And Jay explains to him that because they're so powerful and the public looks at them in such a way, they need to project complete selflessness. They can't help but worry. We need their trust. The lightning bolt can't ever touch the dollar sign. So Jay's just basically saying, when you're the Flash, you just gotta pretend that you're okay, even if you're not. You just gotta put on a face and be like, "I'm all good. I'm not poor. My family is provided for. My family has money for food." Jay's basically just telling Wally that he can't be real with the public, which feels like a weird thing for Jay to say, or anyone to say to a superhero, is to put on a false face and pretend that you're okay even if you're not, to not relate to the public. Jay's afraid that Wally is going to tarnish the Flash emblem by acting this way. And Wally's just like, "You're overreacting." He's like, "I hope. It's nothing. I hope." And the news does what they do best and twist Wally's words by making him out to be a horrible person who cares more about money than helping people. Like, "You know what reduces tension, Flash? Your predecessors knew it, Superman knows it, those charity volunteers know it. You might want to check it out sometime. It's called The Satisfaction of Helping Others. The Flash, today's most awful human in the universe. And Jay's watching the TV and it's just like, I agree, I guess. He really is tarnishing the symbol of the Flash. Julie Greer is actually a decent human being and has a problem with the way that the news is spinning this story. Where they're like, come on guys, aren't we being a little harsh? Like, Mr. Orbach, can we talk a second? Like, will I wish we hadn't? Yes. It's this Flash thing. It's out of hand. I mean, he's helped this city a lot, and we're forgetting all about that it's... Julie, it's hard to swallow disappointment, but videotape doesn't lie. The Flash is clearly not the man we thought he was. And we can totally take his word, because Mr. Orbach is such a great guy. He's so great that he's actually Spin in secret. Like, he is the villain, so of course he doesn't give a crap about the Flash's name being tarnished. In fact, he is probably the one that pulled the strings on this whole story. Now, I feel that this story is very simple for Wally to fix this situation that he's in. I believe it would be as simple as Wally just gets in front of the public and is honest with them and says, I have a family, I have kids, and I don't have a job, and being the Flash isn't enough to provide my family, and that's why I'm so tense. I feel like if he was just honest with people about his struggles right now, they would be more understanding and they wouldn't be framing him as a villain because they would realize that he's just a dad trying to provide for his kids, and that's why he's so tense. Nah, he doesn't do that. We find out that the secret behind Spin's powers are that he has this person, we have no idea who this is, but they look awful. They look like they've completely malnourished, just bold and frail and disgusting looking, hooked up to this machine, and apparently this person or thing that is helping Spin has the ability to bring people's anxieties to life, which is how Spin was able to make the earthquake happen. That's as far as we know in terms of what's going on. There's also an IV drip connected to this guy that Spin refills for him. He's holding this guy hostage and using his powers. Pretty awful. Wally surfs the internet for jobs, and Linda reveals that she's now using the kids' college fund in order to pay for cable because they have no money. And this is when Wally gets an email specifically to the Flash saying that he has a job offer from somebody called Dante. And Wally decides to reply to this email. We don't know what the job is, but apparently the Flash is going to get paid to do something. Maybe attend kids' birthday parties or something. That would be kind of fun. Linda jump scares Wally and he quickly logs out. And Linda's like, what were you logging out of? And he's like, nothing. He's like, were you watching porn? Are you having an affair? What's her name? Chesty LaRue. Are you here to tell me something? Oh yeah, sorry, there was a bulletin. Spins at the Salamanders game. And after she says that, Wally whooshes past her and heads straight to the baseball game where everybody's running out in a panic. He goes and he visits Spin. It's like, what kept you? And Wally just straight up punches him. Spin was like, what was that for? For making a liar out of me in front of my son. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just so glad you're here. See, I've taken that earthquake thing as far as it can go. You can see they're getting weaker. Yesterday's news. But new anxieties replace old ones every day, Flash. I know what's on their minds now. And I think you do too. So go on. Show them. And we see the words super greed, super speed appear on Spin's mask. And all of a sudden, Wally just speeds through everybody in the baseball stadium and then heads home. And Linda, Ira, and Jai hear him from downstairs. So they head upstairs to see what the noise is. Jai smashes through the door, and when they enter the bedroom, they find their dad in a pile of money and stolen belongings. Like, what have you done? I don't know. So he's been controlled by Spin, or tricked by him, to steal all these people's money. You know, how's Wally gonna get out of this situation? Also, it doesn't look like Ira and Jai are worried at all or are mad at their dad. They seem to be really happy that he's somehow gotten all of this money, or that he's clearly stolen all of this money. They're just like, woo, yeah! Wally makes his way through Keystone City, talking about the fact that nobody really trusts him anymore after he stole everybody's money and wallets and cards. And we see that Jay is now being interviewed by that prick on the news who was spinning these bad Flash stories about Wally, saying that he's a villain, focusing more on Wally stealing the money and wallets, and not the fact that he was clearly under mind control. And we see Jay here actually defending Wally against these accusations, but this guy just refuses to talk about Spin. Jay brings up Spin and is like, yeah, he controlled Wally, and the other guy's like, who cares, we're going on to a break, and then we'll come back with another part of the interview where we talk about Wally's kids. And Mr. Orbach is controlling this entire interview. He's telling his mysterious captive to use his powers to force the interviewer to start talking about these kid superheroes that have been seen working with the Flash. And he starts asking Jay who these kids are. And the Flash is like, and Jay is like, I can't talk about these kids because it might reveal the Flash's identity. And that would be wrong. It would be unfair to him. It's like, but isn't he putting them in danger? Bad enough that if they are his, but isn't it worse if they're not? I can't answer to everything he does. You seem angry with him. And that's when Mr. Orbach's influence over people starts to affect Jay and begins controlling Jay's action as Jay becomes really angry. And the Justice League are watching this interview and they're like, man, this is gonna have really bad consequences for us. And Roy says, are we gonna have to head back to Keystone? And Batman's like, no, we're not going to have to. We made that mistake last time. We found out what was really going on with Wally's kids. We understand why he lets them be superheroes. Roy's like, but he's my friend. I'm really worried about him. I want to go talk to him. Yeah, John's like, yeah, we don't run you either, Roy. Just kind of giving Roy the idea that he can go and talk to Wally if he wants to. The Justice League aren't going to stop him. Wally heads off to go and meet the man who emailed him with a business proposal, Mike Virgil. Mike is on Wally's side as somebody with superpowers who needs to make money and doesn't want to become a criminal. You know, there are a lot of people that become criminals when they get superpowers because they have no way to make money and they believe that the superpowers are the best way to make that money. Mike is somebody who has superpowers, but he's put his powers into a different kind of business. He has an entire storage room filled with merchandise, including replicas of the Batmobile, t-shirts, all this kind of stuff. And the reason why he's hired Wally is because he has some kind of DVD, which is Pop Culture's Library of Alexandria, and he needs somebody as fast as Wally to watch the DVD because apparently there is something on it that can only be decrypted by somebody who can read as fast or see as fast as Wally can. Meanwhile, back at the West House, Linda is trying to fix their door. When she hears a noise coming from downstairs, she finds Jay Garrick holding the hands of Ira and Jai. He's there for Wally. It's like, where's Wally? It's like, he's out answering that job ad. But if you want to wait, I need to see him now. So Jay is very much acting out of character. He's very angry, a little too angry. It just doesn't feel right. It's like that vibrational leash your dad uses to bring you to him. Does it work both ways? I don't know. Try something with me. We'll find the right vibrational frequency. We'll get him. Grab hold now. He just grabs the two kids and vibrates away with them. And Linda's like, hey, Jay, I'm right here. You should probably ask me if you want to. So Jay just takes her kids without even asking. Wally is happy to help Mike sift through his DVD, but he also wants to know how Mike got his hands on something like this. But that's when he suddenly gets pulled to where Ira and Jai and Jay are, and is like, hey, Jay, what are you doing? Like, why have you got my kids here? Why are we in my neighborhood in broad daylight? It's time someone stood up to you. You disgrace the lightning, act out of greed, poison the planet, throw open our borders, get us into war. Jay? A couple of neighbors see what's going on outside and decide to call the police. Wally wants to talk to Jay away from prying eyes, away from his kids. He touches Jay on the shoulder. He's like, don't hide behind your kids. Jay punches Wally in the face, and that's when Jai and Ira get upset. They're like, don't hit my father, you old. And they attack Jay, and Wally's like, kids, no. And suddenly, a big flashing light happens, and we see that Roy has arrived and has shot a flare arrow to stop the fighting. He's like, settle down. Oh god, what have I done? This seems to have snapped Jay out of his weird trance. Roy arrives, he's like, just came to see if you're okay. Guess not. Wally, I was at that interview and I got so angry. Don't take the blame, Jay. The whole town has been losing it. From the insane phobia about the earthquakes, to demonizing me because I complained about money. Those aren't real human reactions. But everyone's having them, like I did. At the news station, let's go check it out. And Roy's trying to talk to Wally, and he and Jay just head off. And Roy's like, wait for me. It's alright, no need to thank me. While they head off to the news station, Spin goes and visits his person that he's holding captive. He's sifting through all sorts of information about Wally's rogues, because what he wants to do is summon the rogue that is best to fight Wally. One of the rogues that Wally is most afraid of. We also learn that the name of his captive is Edwar. And the rogue that Edwar summons is Gorilla Grodd. We don't get to see his face, but we see his arm and his leg. And Spin's just like, oh no, not you. And we can kind of see the reflection of Grodd's face in his mask. And Grodd's appearance has also destroyed the machine that Edwar was attached to as well. I'm curious to see who this Edwar is. They kind of look like Elmer Fudd, but just a really nasty looking version. Going forward, the Flash starts to get crazy as Gorilla Grodd appears in front of Spin and Edwar alongside Nazim, the baby albino gorilla that we saw during the Lightning Saga. And Grodd is pissed at Spin because Nazim had just brought him back from the brink of death using his healing powers, and Grodd was planning on killing the baby gorilla, which is just really sad and shows how brutal he is that he's gonna kill this baby gorilla even though it healed him. But Spin has ruined his plans, and Nazim starts getting all tangled in Edwar's cables and pulling them apart, and Spin is like, you're gonna set him free, and if you set him free, I'll lose my power, and his powers will go out of control. How is that any concern of Grodd? Because I say so! And Spin causes an earthquake in the building, because this is my place. And Grodd just jumps out of the way of the earthquake and is like, human, the world is Grodd's place. He does like a Jesus pose in the middle of the room and causes the entire room to just explode with his telekinetic abilities. This is probably the most badass Gorilla Grodd has ever looked in a comic book. Also, up until this point, Grodd has only ever had mind powers, so the fact that he's doing some kind of telekinesis means that he's had a power-up since we last saw him. Wally, Jay, Ira, and Jai head to KN News because they want to investigate it because they believe that the news is somehow mind-controlling people, and the guy that works there is just being really annoying to them, saying that the news isn't doing anything wrong, and that Wally only hates them because they're tarnishing his name. This kind of pisses Wally off, and he starts getting in the guy's face, and Ira's just like, hey Dad, before you continue shouting at this guy, we're on TV. Then, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of chaotic random things begin happening because of Spin's powers, or Edwar's powers, and the fight between him and Grodd. A truck smashes into the news station, and the guy driving the truck is talking like an advertisement for road safety and drink driving, and then a nearby desk just erupts into flames, and so Flash has to put that out. It sounds insane what's going on, and that's just because it is. Like, random things are happening, there's no ounce of sense for what's going on. Jay and Ira question what's causing all this, and Jay sees exactly what's causing it all. Grodd versus Spin. And then we got little Edwar just running away in panic, unable to control his powers. Nazim goes after Edwar while Spin and Grodd fight Jay. Meanwhile, Wally is having to deal with the chaos that's going on at the news station. One of the guys just pulls out a gun and starts shooting everyone because he's being controlled by this news network virus that's going around. There's a guy who is acting like a chef on a cooking program, and then this woman walks up to him and it's like, you won't be able to afford food if you fall prey to the credit collapse. Let me give you my 6 secrets of survival, and knocks him over the head with a briefcase. Just insane stuff going on. Grodd and Spin use their powers to trap Jay in a pile of rubble, and Spin's like, look at that, we thought of the same thing. And Grodd's like, never! And hits Spin in the head by headbutting him. Jay and Ira are about to fight Grodd and Spin, but then a random net comes out of nowhere and grabs them as they are pulled away by a limousine. Wally confronts Raymond again, and then a woman comes up to him screaming that she hates him and hitting his chest, and Wally's like, who's this person? And Raymond's like, that's the victim's family. It's like, what victim? It doesn't matter, we always show the victim's family. So this woman is being affected by this weird virus thing going around. Edwar's powers, which make her believe that she is the victim's family, or a victim's family that you always see on the news. Which I thought was a bit of a funny gag. Wally heads out into the streets to fight Grodd, where he just punches him in the face multiple times. Grodd uses his telekinetic abilities to send Wally flying, and then we get to see what happened to Ira and Jai. They get thrown around by this limousine, and the net eventually breaks thanks to Jai's powers. He smashes straight into a nearby wall, so Ira goes over and checks in on him, but the limousine stops, and then the back of the limousine opens up, and one of the guys in the limousine reveals himself, and he's holding these 2 guns with tranquilizer darts or something in them that hit Jai and Ira, knocking them out. The guys in this limousine work for Darkseid, or something known as the Darkseid Club. This is all going to tie directly into Final Crisis, because not only is this an issue of The Flash, but it's also a Final Crisis tie-in as well. Jai and Ira are tied up to the inside of the limousine, and that's when Ira begins sparking with electricity. Something's happening to her. She's gaining some kind of new level of power as lightning bolts strike down, breaking all of her shackles, and then she just ignites in this light. And Jai's just like, what's happening? Iris! So, what's going on with Ira right now? I guess we'll find out in the next issue. Jay and Wally are helpless as Grodd uses his telekinetic abilities to suspend them in the air upside down. He's also got Spin there with them, and he uses his mind abilities to give each of them a command. He tells Wally to go after Nazim and bring him back to him. He gives Jay some kind of command that he keeps a secret from us, the reader. And then he gives Spin a command, which is to reveal his history, his origin, how he became what he is now. Meanwhile, the Darkseid Brotherhood realize that something is going on in the back of their limousine as Ira bursts out the back of the limo, grabbing their tranquilizers from their guns and beating the crap out of them at super speed. It turns out that she has suddenly aged up, because we know from previous issues that Jai and Ira's molecules are unstable, which can cause them to age rapidly in intervals. seems like it's already affecting Iray, and because she's aged up, she now has super speed, which I'm not really a fan of. I'm not a fan of Iray just becoming another speedster. I'm hoping that this is just a temporary thing, because I prefer Wally's kids to have unique abilities of their own instead of just being other speedsters. It helps the Flash family, because everybody kind of makes fun of the fact that the Flash family are just a group of speedsters, and if you're a speedster, just come right in. I prefer it if the Flash family all have, like, some of them have different abilities. They're not all just speedsters, you know? Iray's really happy about these new abilities and the fact that she's older, and Jai then reveals to her that he hasn't told her that Wally and Linda were talking about the fact that Jai and Iray might grow really old one day and die, and that's when Iray reveals to Jai that she's always known about it, not because she heard her parents say it, but because they're only 3 months old. Like, she's not stupid. She's like, Jai, we're 3 months old, look at us. Of course I was able to figure it out. I'm not surprised. She seems to not be freaked out at all about the idea that she could possibly die. And I have a feeling it's because she's keeping it all up inside, and that it's probably going to come pouring out in the future. If it doesn't, that would be real disappointing, but I imagine that's what's going on. Meanwhile, Edwar runs by the Flash Museum and begins projecting a message to the people surrounding it, which is a news report that the Flash Museum is going to be on fire, and that the cause of the blaze is unknown, and so all the people start attacking the Flash Museum to set it on fire. Mr. Rohrbeck explains his origin story, which is pretty straightforward. He took over the media empire that his father had began, and he then found this guy named Edwar Martinez in special needs hospital. He figured out that Edwar had these powers and that he was going to use them for himself, but he is incredibly racked with guilt over kidnapping somebody from a special needs, and you can tell because he doesn't want to relive these memories again. He begs Grodd to stop it. You are useless to... And before Grodd can punch Mr. Rohrbeck and kill him, he is attacked by Jai and Iray. Iray runs around him in circles while Jai smashes him with his muscles. And because Grodd is preoccupied with them, it frees Wally and Jay from his grasp. And so Wally joins in the fight with Grodd and punches him with an uppercut to the face, which knocks him out. And this is where Wally then confronts Iray about the fact that she's older and she has powers, and he's about to tell her off for being happy, because he's like, why are you happy? Aging is this rapidly is not a good thing. I don't want you to die. But he doesn't want to put a dour moment on Iray's glee, and so he just decides to ignore it for now. And that's when Jai points out that Gorilla Grodd is disappearing for some reason. And then the owner of KN Network shows up, or the reporter from KN Network, not the owner is Mr. Rohrbeck. He shows up and reveals that Mr. Rohrbeck is his boss, and so Wally puts two and two together that Spin is the owner of KN News and that he was using his powers to control everybody. So it's all good now. The Flash's name is being redeemed in the eyes of the public. So Jay grabs Mr. Rohrbeck, and Wally grabs his kids, and they all start running off together because apparently the Flash Museum is on fire, as we learnt from earlier, and Wally has just learned about this, so he needs to head to the Flash Museum. He tells his kids to deal with the rioters while he heads inside the museum, because he knows that Inertia is in there, because he'd frozen Inertia in time and left him as a statue, forcing him to watch or look at the statues of Bart for eternity. And it's when he goes and visits Inertia that he considers just letting Inertia burn to death because of what he did to Bart, because he killed him. But he can't do that. He's not a killer. He's not that kind of person. So instead, he grabs Inertia's body, takes him out of the Flash Museum, says, I can't kill you. I don't know what I'm gonna do with you, but I'll have to worry about it later. Irey and Jai reveal that they built a wall to keep the mob out, and that's when Jay reveals to Wally, he's like, hey, you need to brace yourself. He's like, what now? Over there. And Jay points at Irey, and it's revealed that Irey is aging even further. Linda is reunited with her daughter Irey, who is now 30 years old, and still doesn't seem to be freaked out about the fact that she's aging rapidly. Linda is a mess right now, and she's going to do everything she can to try and reverse Irey's aging. So she tells Wally to pull apart all the equipment in their basement so that they can try and build a machine that will de-age her. But that's when Wally reveals to Linda that he has other things that he needs to do. And Linda's like, what are you talking about? What other things? What's more important than helping our daughter? And Wally's like, I can't say, I just got really important things to do. And we know that he still needs to go and find Nazem, because Grodd has mind-controlled him to do so, and he's not allowed to tell his family. And that really pisses off Wally. That not only is he having to work for Grodd, but he's not even able to tell his family or help them. And Irey tells her mum not to worry, and that she has super speed, so she can help build the machine that could possibly reverse her age. Wally's so mad at Grodd for ruining his family reunion, or what's currently going on with his family, by telling him to do this thing for him, that once he finds Nazem, he says that he's gonna kill Grodd. He's like, once I'm done, I'm gonna kill you. He sees a mob attacking City Hall and assumes that Edwar must be nearby with Nazem, so he whizzes past them behind City Hall, where he finds Edwar and Nazem. The two have very quickly bonded with one another, and Nazem is trying to protect Edwar, but Edwar uses his powers to connect to Wally and reveal his origins. Edwar is a metahuman with the ability to draw emotions out of people and then disperse them amongst people. So if he draws anger from somebody, he can then give it to anybody else. He gets taken in by the American government, but because he's a refugee, he isn't treated very well. He basically becomes a slave. He gets tortured by the American government so that they can use his powers for their own good. The guy that is torturing him has his anger drawn out of him by Edwar, and then Edwar accidentally causes a murder plague because he accidentally sends this doctor's anger into a whole bunch of people, causing them to start becoming violent and start murdering people. That was when he was sent to the special needs hospital and was found by Mr. Orbach, who was using his powers to draw people's fears and stuff and then supplant it into more people and spread it like a plague. He was living a torturous life, constantly feeding off of people's fears and anger, to the point where Edwar has never really felt compassion before. And Wally is the first person to allow him to feel compassion. Because Wally grabs his hand, and Edwar absorbs the compassion out of Wally's hand, and the compassion out of Nazem's hands as well. And using his powers, he is able to spread the compassion amongst the public, which causes everybody to drop their weapons and start hugging each other and being compassionate towards one another. Because Edwar is also dying. These are his final moments on the planet. And Wally wanted to give him the feeling of compassion before he passed away. The reason he's dying is because those years of torture and neglect have just worn him down to the point that he's dying now. Edwar dies, and Nazem mourns the loss of his friend. Wally grabs Nazem and decides to take him to go and see his family because he still needs to finish his job, which is to drop Nazem off at Gorilla City. So Wally heads back to where Jai, Irey, and Linda are, where it's revealed that Irey has aged to about 40 years old now, and Jai is really worried, and Irey tells her not to, because she's like, no matter how old I get, we're always going to be twins. You're always going to understand what I'm going through. And that's when Wally arrives with Nazem, and He tells them that they're gonna have one final family trip together to Gorilla City in case this is Iray's last day on Earth, since she seems to be aging so rapidly. So they head to Gorilla City with Nazem, and they meet up with Nanamdi, the leader of the gorillas, to hand Nazem over, and Wally reveals that Grodd was responsible for stealing Nazem, and Nanamdi knows that Grodd is trying to steal Nazem's powers, so they're going to protect Nazem so that Grodd can't succeed in doing that. And that's when Wally decides to ask Nanamdi a favor. Because Nazem has healing abilities, he asks if they can use Nazem's abilities to heal Iray. And Nanamdi says no. The reason why he says no is because it would go against the laws of the gorillas to use Nazem's healing abilities on a human. And that really pisses off Wally. He's like, that's all we are to you? Just humans? Not friends? This is my daughter. This is her life. I make gorilla laws, not gods. I cannot help you, but I pray you find a way to help yourself. And he kind of gives Wally a knowing glance, so he's not going to say that Wally can do it, but he's gonna allow Wally to just use Nazem's powers and not say anything. So Wally finds Nazem, quickly grabs him and brings him over to Iray, Jai, and Linda, and then asks Nazem to use his powers on Iray, and so Nazem does just that, and all of a sudden, Iray just ages into a skeleton and dies. And everyone's just like, what the hell? What's going on? And then all of a sudden, Nazem starts transforming. Nazem transforms into Gorilla Grodd for some reason. It's like, dead! Now you will join her! No! I'll kill you, Grodd! So not only is Iray now dead, but also Gorilla Grodd. Nazem transformed into Gorilla Grodd for some reason. I hope the next issue explains what's going on, because right now I am thoroughly confused. Filled with anger and rage over Iris's death, Wally and Jai immediately attack Grodd, but while they are punching Grodd, Wally mentions that he can actually feel Grodd whenever he punches him, and that's when he puts two and two together. He tells Jai to stop fighting Grodd, because it turns out they were never actually fighting Grodd. Iray isn't actually dead. This was all just a mind trick from Gorilla Grodd. He made Nazem look like Grodd so that Wally and Jai thought they were fighting him, but they were actually fighting Nazem. And also, the aging rapidly Iris never existed. Iris is still an old woman, and that's still a problem, you know. She's not dead, but she's still old. And now Nazem is afraid of them, so he won't use his healing powers to save Iray. So they gotta think of a different way to do it, because Nazem is running away from them, and now Gorilla Grodd shows up out of nowhere. Don't know where he came from, but he just shows up and grabs Nazem. And so Wally and Iray decide to face Grodd, and Wally looks at Iray and sees that she has a weird look in her eyes are glowing, and he thinks that Grodd is now controlling her mind or something. He doesn't know what his daughter is thinking. And then that's when Nanamdi shows up alongside his forces and has a bit of a confrontation with Jai and Linda, because he thinks that they're trying to harm Nazem, and Jai prepares to fight them, and is like, we're not doing anything to Nazem, it's Grodd, he's the problem. And so Linda has to come in and stop him from fighting the gorillas. I don't know why Jai decides to attack them, because he's trying to prove their innocence, and yet the first thing he does is grow his muscles big and try to punch them. It's like, Jai, if you're trying to prove that you're not the one messing with Nazem and doing all these things, you probably shouldn't attack them first off. Linda and Jai are taken away by Nanamdi's forces, while Wally and Iray continue to fight Grodd. Iray jumps onto his back, and using the power of the Speed Force, vibrates his entire body so that his mind can't keep up with it. And that's the last time we see Grodd. We don't know what happens to him after this. we kind of just assume that he gets taken away by Nanamdi's forces. Irei mentions that using the Speed Force to do that almost took everything away from her, and that it was very painful to connect to the Speed Force like that. Nanamdi has a nice conversation with Jai and Linda about Irei's condition, and he introduces them to Dememe, who is their court physician. And Linda says that the gorillas can't fix her because they've been trying to use alien technology, so she just assumes that Gorilla City doesn't have as good technology as alien technology, which is the wrong assumption, as Dememe tells her that they've been using alien technology for years, so it's all good. He takes a look at the problems with Irei, and that's when Wally shows up with her and reveals to them that the problem with their aging isn't coming from their DNA. It's not them that is the problem. It's the Speed Force that is the problem. The Speed Force is aging them. So the way to cure them is to go into the Speed Force itself. So Wally, Irei, and Jai enter the Speed Force. Wally sees hallucinations of people that he knows. He sees Bart, he sees Jay, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to be Barry Allen or Wally, because it looks exactly like him, so I don't know if Wally's just seeing a younger version of himself, or if he's seeing Barry. I guess we'll never know. I guess it can be whichever one you want it to be. Jai calls out to Wally. Being in the Speed Force has caused Jai to rapidly age, just like his sister. And what Wally does is he starts to draw out this black goo that is inside his kids that he says is like the evil part of the Speed Force. It's what's causing them to age. So he draws it out of them and draws it into himself. And he's like, do whatever you want to me, just don't do it to my kids. And he absorbs this weird black goo, and you're thinking, oh, he's going to absorb this and then it's going to cause problems for Wally later down the road, or cause problems immediately. It doesn't. I don't know if it's going to be brought up again later, but as of here and now, absorbing the black evil goo doesn't do anything to Wally. Instead, it just fixes the whole problem. He absorbs the goo, and they leave the Speed Force, and Jai and Irei are back to their regular ages, reuniting with their mom, and everything is all hunky-dory. Everyone's just like, yay, we're a family again, you did it, Wally, you fixed everything. So he takes his family back home, where they can go to sleep, and then he heads out into the city to try and clear his name, because everybody hates him at the moment, and he wants to make sure that everybody likes him again. He comes across a couple who tell him that despite Spin's plans and the powers, that the mind control that was used against them, they never stopped believing in the Flash. They never hated him. So it's kind of it's Wally discovering that despite all the mind control, there were people that truly believed in him and still liked him. And so he just decides to spend a moment staring at the sunset with these two strangers, which is just a nice moment of the Flash connecting with the citizens of Keystone City, which is something that we got a lot of in Jeff Johns' run that kind of stopped after that. I'm hoping that's going to start again, where we get to see the Flash connecting with the citizens of Keystone City. And so we stand there a while, the three of us, not saying anything, just watching the dawn. As it paints Keystone red, a thought I haven't had in a while returns affectionately, like a lost pet. If it's people like this I've been fighting for, then all I want to do is run and run until I find the next good fight. And Wally just runs at us as we're reading this. Now that the aging issue is gone, Wally has begun going on day trips with Irei and Jai to places like Dinosaur Island to make up for all the times that they've had to keep them at home or experiment on them to make sure that they don't age. Apparently this isn't the first time he's brought them to Dinosaur Island. He's brought them here quite a few times, and at this point they're no longer interested in seeing dinosaurs. They'd rather go home and watch Family Guy. It's at this point that I realize that Irei and Jai don't go to school and they don't have any friends. Their childhood is kind of sad right now. Not only were they stricken with an aging issue for a long time, but now they're just stuck with their parents 24/7. They don't get to go out and play with friends or anything like that. But that soon changes. Wally brings them to Central City to show them the place where he was struck by lightning and became Kid Flash. And they also don't seem to care about this at all. They care more about watching Family Guy, which is both funny and sad at the same time. Your dad is opening up to you about one of the greatest things that ever happened to him in his life, and you don't care? It's not like this is some kind of boring story about how your parents became the people they are or whatever. Like, this is your father telling you the story of how he became a superhero. How could you not be interested in that? Wally sees that there's trouble going on outside and tells his kids to stay behind as he heads out and deals with it himself. Turns out it's the villains Shatterfist, Black Mass, and Fastball, who are all D supervillains that nobody cares about. So Wally just runs in and attacks all of them. He gets hit pretty badly by Black Mass, but Irei and Jai show up and attack Black Mass. But Black Mass is too strong for them. He turns around to attack them, but then gets shocked by a whole bunch of tasers. And Irei's like, hey, where'd you get those tasers from? And Wally's like, I got them from the local police station. The real question is, why are you here? Like, what are you doing here? It's like, what? What do you mean? We always help you. Not anymore, hun. Your mother and I have been talking. This is not good. The story takes a turn that I don't like, which is that Wally and Linda are no longer going to allow Jai and Irei to fight crime with the Flash on a regular basis anymore. Now that they no longer have their aging issue, they're going to send them to school, which is great. I think that's great. They're going to be sent to school, they're going to be able to make friends, but they're no longer allowed to be superheroes on a regular basis. They're allowed to help the Flash occasionally when he needs them, but now they're going to be spending most of their time at school, which I think sucks. I really liked this idea of them being a superhero family, and that's already ending. We had that whole thing with Mark Waid saying that they're not just a family, they're a superhero family. And now we got Alan Burnett coming in and saying, yeah, but we want our kids to live a real life, because to us, the superhero life isn't a real life. Meanwhile, some delivery guy shows up at a lab in Ohio to deliver some lunch, and when he enters the lab, there's dead bees everywhere, which is disgusting. They crunch under his feet. He then walks into the lab area where he sees the dead bodies of all the lab technicians who seem to have been stung to death by all of these bees, and then a mysterious being grabs him by the face, monstrous looking hand, and drips poison onto his forehead. Wally then gets a call from Black Canary to come to that lab and see her, and when he gets there, he sees that it's Amanda Waller that put out the call. So we get this little story of Wally helping Amanda Waller figure out this mystery, because apparently this guy dressed in a bug costume, according to the guy that got attacked, showed up, poisoned him, and then left. And Amanda Waller explains that this guy in a bug costume was there to steal some kind of device made of alien technology that's able to tap into extraordinary dimensional energies. And she's like, it could be a godsend for the energy crisis, or for a weapon system. That too. She explains to Wally that the device was moved to Florida, which is why the guy wasn't able to find it, the guy that was trying to steal it. And she asks Wally to go to Florida in order to get the device before the bug guy shows up. And she's also already called ahead to get everybody evacuated from the Florida laboratory. Wally agrees to help Amanda Waller, which is something that you don't often see in Flash comics, and as he's running over to Florida, his body starts seizing up. He begins feeling seizures that he hasn't felt since he was 10 years old. When he was 10 years old, Wally found out that if he ever ran past the sound of speed, he would never be able to run again, and so out of fear, Barry forced him to not be a superhero anymore. And now Wally is getting those feelings again, and he tries to rationalize it as maybe when I drew all of that evil energy out of my kids, it has now caused my body to become like how I was when I was 10 years old, so I'm receiving the same seizures as back then. Even though I'm not a 10-year-old man, I'm very clearly still an adult man. Internally, I'm 10 years old, I guess, is what they're trying to say. Wally sees some bees fly past him, so he chases and runs ahead of them, ends up at the Florida lab, where he evacuates everybody from the building as the bees begin to swarm it. Wally then sees the bud guy re-enter the laboratory, so he goes in after him, but before he does, he needs to find protection from the bees. So he sees a deep-sea rentals place nearby, grabs a scuba suit from there, and heads into the place where he comes face-to-face with the bug guy, who isn't just wearing a bug costume. He's got a human fly thing going on, where he's half fly, half guy. Wally fights the bug man, who manages to damage his scuba suit, so the bug man gets away while Wally has to quickly take the suit off and also vibrate his body so that the bees can't sting him. He takes the suit off, he runs after the bug man, and he runs into a building, runs all the way up it because the bug man is flying in the sky, and then he runs across the top of the building in order to jump and grab the bug man. But when he does, his body seizes up again, and Wally lands straight into the middle of the ocean. And the bug guy gets away. Jai and Linda are at home, wondering when Wally is going to get back. Linda says that he's going to come back soon because he's got an interview tomorrow, and Wally arrives saying, maybe not. She's like, are you alright? No, it took all this time to run back here. Something's wrong, Linda. Very wrong. And he takes his mask off, and we see that his face has all veins all over it. Something's happening to Wally. And outside of the West House, a bug lands on a nearby leaf, and it is watching their house. Wally is taken to the basement where he's hooked up to all of their technology to see what's going on with him. They got Black Lightning there, Red Arrow, they got Red Tornado on a nearby screen, and for some reason they've got Dr. Midnight there to help as well. Iray and Jai are trying to listen in on what's going on, but Jay quickly grabs them and says that this isn't for their ears, they need to let the grown-ups handle this. We get some flashback moments in this book between Wally and past characters that he's worked with. The first one is Roy Harper, where Wally thinks back to his days as a young Teen Titan, where it's retconned that Wally was incredibly arrogant and was the least liked member of the team, pretty much. He's so fast that he was annoyed that everybody was slower than him, and he was just being obnoxious while they were out on missions, to the point where Dick got so upset that he would storm out on missions. And then eventually, the team just talked less and less until they stopped talking to each other entirely. And then things got worse when Wally went to check on Roy, and this was during the era where Roy was doing drugs. So it's retconned that Wally walked in on him doing drugs, which is something that wasn't a thing. Like, when Roy was doing drugs, none of the Titans knew. This would later be retconned even further in World's Finest Teen Titans, where Roy is doing drugs during that series, and yet none of the other Titans know that he's going through all of that stuff. But during this era, Wally knew, and it freaked him out to the point where instead of helping Roy, he just decided to leave, and then eventually the two of them were able to put their differences aside and become closer. Dr. Midnight deduces that Wally's aura has been decreased through unknown means, most likely through what he did in the Speed Force when he drew that evil power out of his kids. It's caused him to start losing his speed, and they don't know how to cure it, but they're going to try and figure a way to fix it. But for now, Wally has to try not to run over the speed of sound, because if he does, he will continue getting his seizures. Jay offers to look after Jai and Iray for the afternoon, while Wally and Linda deal with this whole situation that he's going through. Roy and Jefferson leave the house to drive off, And Jefferson, because he has electric powers, hears a frequency. And it's the frequency of the bug that's been listening in on everybody's conversations. But the bug quickly shuts off its communication. However, it doesn't do it quick enough, because Red Tornado was also able to hear the frequency, and he's already starting to run it through machines to figure out where it's coming from. Wally heads home, where because of his condition he starts losing more job interviews, and that's when Raven shows up, and we are, for some reason, reminded that there was a horrible romance between them during the New Teen Titans, where he thought he was in love with her, she was manipulating his mind the entire time, and eventually he decided to leave the team, and at the same time, Dick Grayson left the team as well. I think this was around the time that Dick would then come back as Nightwing. I think this is also the moment where he and Dick became best friends. And for some reason, Wally says that you would think that the person he missed the most from the Titans was Dick, but he says that maybe the person I missed the most was Raven, for some reason. I really don't like the fact that we're bringing up this whole relationship again. It should just be left in the past, completely ignored. Wally even seems to be a little bit annoyed that she's now with Beast Boy, like he's jealous for some reason. It's like, bro, you got Linda Park. Why do you care about the fact that Raven is with Beast Boy? Just let it go. It's pathetic. Raven leaves and Linda returns home. Wally explains to her that she's feeling real anxious, and Linda knows of a way to fix that. And he's like, run it off? She's like, I had something else in mind, and grabs his ass, so she wants to have sex with him. So Wally heads off in order to buy her some roses for when they have sex. And while he's out, he also saves a dog from getting hit by a car. Meanwhile, at Jay's house, Jai and Ira are baking with Joanne, and Joanne is on the phone with Linda, telling her about how it's going. And then a whole bunch of bees arrive at their house and start attacking the window, and eventually they come through the fireplace and start attacking Linda, so she quickly runs into a nearby closet, but they start coming under the door, and she tries to use a coat to keep them from coming under the door. And that's when Wally arrives at home and sees that the home is being attacked by bees, so he's like, oh, Linda! Quickly runs into the house to find her, just runs straight through the door, smashing it off of its hinges, grabs a nearby tablecloth and begins swishing it around the house, trying to get the bees away. And then he sees that they're all attacking a closet in the house, and he assumes that that's where Linda is, so he quickly uses his powers to get all the bees away from the door, and then he opens up the door and sees Linda on the ground, and she's been stung a ton by bees, and her heartbeat is incredibly faint. Luckily for Wally, Black Lightning shows up and uses his powers to zap all the bees and kill them, and that's when he reveals to Wally that there has been a spy, a little bee, or a little bug, has been watching them the entire time. And then it's revealed that the one behind everything is a villain called Queen Bee, and that this bug guy is one of her lackeys called Carapace. When we first see Queen Bee, she's completely naked in a tub of honey, and she's got yellowish skin. I'm just thinking, man, Alan Burnett is real kinky, you know, he's got Linda grabbing Wally's ass, ready for sex, and then he's got Queen Bee naked in a tub of honey. She quickly puts on her armor, and it's revealed that she's trying to use the device they stole in order to freeze entire cities in time so that they can then attack the cities and steal all their honey or whatever, I don't know. Meanwhile, Jai and Ira are eating the cake that they baked, but Ira can't finish hers because she's just worried about her parents. And then Wally shows up, and they're like, hey, Dad, what are you doing here? Like, something's happened. The artist has shifted again to Carl Barberry. Wally, Ira, and Jai are all now staying at the Justice League's headquarters because their house has been infested by bees. Linda is currently on life support, so they've got to figure out a way to cure her. And while they're looking after Linda, Jai and Ira get to spend time with Leanne, who is Roy Harper's daughter. Apparently they already know each other. I guess they were hanging out with Leanne off panel because this is the first time we've ever seen those three characters together. Wally is desperate to help Linda. He just doesn't want to lose her because she is his beacon. And we get to see some flashbacks of how Linda and Wally met each other, the history, their history. Wally's still wearing his present-day costume in the past. We don't see him with the white eyes or anything, which is what he had back then. Just a whole bunch of lovely flashbacks involving Wally and Linda that we have covered in previous videos, different adventures that they've had, like Wally facing Razor and Mirror Master and Captain Cold, and them getting married, Abracadabra trying to ruin their marriage, all that stuff. Iray and Jai arrive while Wally is crying over Linda while she's comatose, and they just want to spend time with their mom. Like, they want to hug her. So he lets his kids snuggle up to her on the hospital bed. It's pretty beautiful. And Roy comes in, he's like, I thought I'd just bring back your kids so that they could spend the night with their mom. And Wally's like, can you bring the bed here so that they can sleep next to her? Because I don't want to take them back to the bed. So Roy brings the entire bed into the room so that they can sleep right near their mum. Batman arrives to talk to Wally about the device that Waller had found. He says that they found a video, a pre-recorded video of Waller talking about the device, and that Wally should go check it out because he might be able to understand what it means. And so Wally heads off, sneaks into one of the government buildings, finds the recording on a computer, and watches it. And Amanda Waller explains this device, and Wally realizes the device is a gateway to the Speed Force, and that's why Queen Bee is trying to take Wally out of the picture. Wally then gets a call from Dr. Midnight, who tells him that Linda has taken a turn for a worse, which is awful. So Wally heads back to see her, and body begins failing again, so Dr. Midnight has to quickly take over and try and fix things. And Wally is so desperate to help Linda, he's like, the only thing that's going to save her is a miracle. So he runs to get Raven's help. Meanwhile, Roy takes Jai, Iray, and Leanne to the park to spend some time together. And that's when Leanne walks up to Roy and says that Linda is here, that she's okay and she's come to pick up her kids. Linda's like, yeah, I'm all good. I've come here to pick up my kids. And Roy thinks that things are a little bit fishy, especially when he starts to see bees around him. He realizes that it's not Linda Park and that it's actually Queen Bee in disguise. So he tries to shoot her with an arrow, but Queen Bee quickly shoots back at him. And Iray and Jai are tricked into thinking that Queen Bee is their mum. She opens up a portal and manages to get away. And Roy's just like, ah, crap. This is not good. Wally begs Raven to take him to the Spectre so that he can get the Spectre's help to bring back Linda. And Raven says that the last time she dealt with the Spectre, he tried to kill her. And he's like, yeah, but he's helped Linda before. And he's like, that's what, because he was Hal Jordan. Now he's a new host. Like, she has seconds, Raven. Please, God. Alright, but I won't deal with him directly. You are on your own, Wallace. Be careful. And she transports Wallace to the Spectre's realm. And he comes face to face with the Spectre, and the Spectre says, I know why you've come, and what you seek, but your request must be denied. There is no evading destiny, Flash. Your wife dies today. The current version of the Spectre is Crispus Allen, a former police detective. The Spectre refuses to bring Linda back to life because he's a dick and he's decided that Linda's gonna die. It has to happen no matter what Wally wants. It's a moot point. Death has already come. Wally grabs him by the scruff of his cape and is like, it's nothing for you. Save her, you bastard. You're good for nothing. And then he gets teleported into the middle of the city and is like, well, I'm gonna have to save her myself then. I'm not gonna let her die. And meanwhile, Linda is crossing over to the afterlife. She sees the white light. She starts heading towards it. She's like, yes, I'm coming towards it. And then she hears a voice that's saying, come back to life, backwards, and Linda refuses, and is like, no, this is right, I have to move on. And then she sees the words, Wally, and that's when Linda comes back to life. She's brought back by Zatara, who uses her magic to bring her back, and that's why everything was backwards. Zaytara brought her back with her magic, but it was really Wally's love, or Linda's love for Wally, that brought her back. So Wally's now becoming readjusted to the fact that his wife has survived, but then Roy and Jefferson arrive to drop the news that his kids have been taken away by Queen Bee, which upsets Wally as well. He's like, why the hell did you go to the park with them? You knew that Queen Bee was coming after them. We should have kept them here. And then Batman says to Wally that they'll figure out a way to save their kids. They just gotta figure out how to find Queen Bee. So Wally heads to a part of the base where he can just chill and think about how to find Queen Bee, and that's when Roy arrives. It's like, Roy, about before, it's not, I'm just worried. You have a few minutes? It's like, sure. So he has a little bit of a conversation with Roy. Meanwhile, Queen Bee, disguised as Linda, gives Iray a device that allows her to use the Speed Force to freeze people in time, and then she forces Iray to speed up the aging of the people that she's frozen so that they disintegrate into dust. And she tells Iray that she's not killing somebody. She lies to her and says that Iray is just destroying a drone. And when she first talks to Iray, she appears as Linda Park, but then she just drops the look and starts looking like Queen Bee, and yet Iray still thinks that she's her mum. So I would assume that maybe Queen Bee just looks like Linda in Iray's eyes. That's the only conclusion I can come to make this make sense. Wally and Roy head to the park where Iray and Jai went missing because there are residuals of the Speed Force here, and Wally might be able to tap into them so that he can open up a Speed Force portal that will take them straight to where Queen Bee is, because she's using the Speed Force there. So if they travel through the Speed Force, they'll be able to get there. And Nightwing, Cyborg, and Beast Boy all arrive as well, and so does Raven. And Raven uses her powers to help Wally connect to the Speed Force so that he can open it up. And they enter the Speed Force portal and end up in the middle of Queen Bee's base, where they fight against her drones. And while they are there destroying the entire facility, Wally finds Jai in this test tube looking thing, and he saves Jai, and Jai says that Iray has gone off with Queen Bee, thinking that Queen Bee is their mum. Wally and Jai manage to destroy the base. Jai uses his muscles to rip up a part of the base and throw it at these drones, which causes a massive explosion, which destroys the entire base. And Wally grabs Jai and runs out of the base with him. He gets in contact with Roy and the other Titans who manage to escape the base as well. And they tell Wally that they found another exit that Queen Bee and Iray used to get away. And they say that the exit has led all the way to the Justice League's headquarters, and that they've tried to communicate with the Justice League, but haven't heard anything back from them. So Wally decides to run over to the Justice League's headquarters to see what's happened to them. So he runs over to the Hall of Justice, and he finds Queen Bee is there, using Iray's device to freeze the Justice League in time. Queen Bee realizes that Wally is there and tries to shoot at her, and Iray realizes that it's her father, and Wally tries to convince Iray that Queen Bee isn't her mom and that she is the supervillain, and Queen Bee is like, he's lying to you, I am your mom, and she tries to shoot at Wally, but Iray uses the device to give Wally Speed Force energy, and he uses that Speed Force energy to whiz around Queen Bee, and she becomes conducted with Speed Force energy, which causes her molecules to vibrate out of control, and she falls through the floor. She vibrates straight through it because she has no control over her molecules. And that's the last we see of Queen Bee. It's presumed that she fell to her death or something. But with Queen Bee out of the picture, Iray is saved, and so is the Justice League. And Irene turns to Wally and is like, yeah, but what did I do? And I guess off panel, Wally has to explain to her that she may have actually killed a couple of people, but it wasn't her fault. She was being manipulated. And so Wally and his kids reunite with Linda and they all head home, and Jai begins training for anything that they have to face in the future. But Wally, after all of this, has decided that he is going to take his family away from the superhero life for a while so that they can spend time together as a family, because he realizes that's more important to him. So Wally gives up the superhero life to be with his family. The last shot of the issue is him running across the ocean, holding Linda and a briefcase with all of their stuff in it, and Jai and Ira behind them. So it's presumed that they've gone on family vacation together. He's like, as long as I have my loved ones around me, nothing much else matters. Honest, if I lost my powers tomorrow and they never came back, at least I could say I had a great run. Never the end. And that's the end of Wally West's run as the Flash during the 2000s. So, yeah, it's not exactly clear what has happened at the end, but it's presumed that Wally has just given up being a superhero for a while and is taking his family away from the superhero life. That's as much context as we get. We'll find out what happens to Wally West next in Final Crisis, which is what I will be covering after this, starting next week. It's been a real run with Wally West. I've read a lot of Flash comics involving him, so it's bittersweet seeing this era come to an end. But I'm looking forward to reading Final Crisis, and after that we're going to be reading Flash Rebirth, which is the return of Barry Allen. We're going to see how that plays out. We're nearing Flashpoint. Like, we're getting pretty close to Flashpoint, which I've never read before, so I'm really interested to read that too. So yeah, next week we're starting Final Crisis. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for Final Crisis. Have a good one.